Good enough, Shabbos, everybody. Welcome to another shiur of Mishnayos, the daily Kohen Neshama. Today we're learning Perek Zion of Yevamos. We're about halfway through. Uh, as a public announcement, we are scheduled to start Maseches Ksubos on Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach morning, we're going to start Ksubos, and then Nadarim starts like after Rosh Chodesh Iyar, taking a couple days break for the actual Yontif days. Okay, today's shiur is sponsored by our good friends at the Imperial Advisory Group. If you need CFO services for your business, reach out to them on the website imperialgrp.com. They're great at what they do. Today's shiur is also the Nishmas Ruspas Simcha Kohen, our Nachum Simcha Kohen, Yeshua Mordechai ben Shepsel, Bracha Saba Shmuel Leib, and Binah Moshe ben Yosef, Beir, and Hashal will have an Aliyah. And as a four Shlema for Yisrael ben Rachel Leah, Rachel bas Pesel Zelda, Arvim Yitzchak ben Risha, and Chaya bas David Bela, four Shlema b'Sol Shar Chol Yisrael. And as a schus for Yecheskel Menachem ben Rivka, Eliyahu ben Chana, and David ben Esther, Shefer Bracha v'Atzlacha, in all their endeavors. Here we go. Today's Perek, again, we said it's Perek Zion. Not a long one, it's only 6 Mishnayos, so hang in there. Let's put this up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Again, Perek Zion, Mishnah Aleph. We are going to be focusing on the marriages that are usher to Kohanim. We've learned in the past, throughout the previous two Siddharim, we've learned that the Kohen can eat Teruma, and people who are not Kohanim cannot eat Teruma. That we've learned in Zeraim and Moed, we learned that as well. So people who are in a Kohen's household can also eat Teruma. This includes his wife and his kids, obviously. And, well, not obviously. His sons can eat Teruma. His daughters, while they are single, or if they marry of Kohanim, they can eat Teruma. Once the daughters get married to non-Kohanim, then they can no longer eat Teruma. And his 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 slaves, the slave, the Yevamos and the Shifa Kananis, they are owned by a Kohen. They can eat Teruma. Obviously, an Ivri, who is not owned by the master, rather he's a Jew and he stole money and he has to pay it back. And Evan Kanani does not have the right to eat Truma. Anyways, but a Shifcha Kananis and Evan Kanani, they can eat Truma. Now, if the wife, if the what's it called? If the Avadim belonged to Mrs. Kohen, okay, and then she gets disqualified for whatever reason from eating truma, then her slave, like she gets divorced or through improper relationship or whatever, then her avadim can also are also disqualified. Um, okay, so Mishnah Aleph. Here we go. Amana Kohen Gadol, in the case where a widow is married to a Kohen Gadol, Grusha Chalutza a Kohen Hedjud, or a divorcee or Chalutza is married to an ordinary Kohen. So in all these cases, they're disqualified from eating Truma. If she brought into a marriage with some, if she brought into the marriage some slaves that are classified as nichsim lug, right? Again, nichsim lug are that that the that they belong to the wife, but the husband has he owns the right to benefit from them. Okay, or if the slaves were next say son barzel. Son barzel means that it becomes the husband's outright. It's a different in halacha as to what the classification is. So avde melug lo yachol b'truma. So the avadim that are melug slaves, right, where that she owns them, but he has rights to them, they may not eat truma since she owns them, and since she's disqualified from, since she herself is disqualified from eating truma, then her slaves may also not eat truma. But the Tzon Barzel slaves, you know, again, next say Tzon Barzel, we said that the husband takes ownership of those nechasim, so they may eat truma since he owns them, and therefore they are not disqualified from eating truma, even though the wife was disqualified from the marriage from truma herself. Um, so what's the difference between the two? How you define that the difference, and where does it show up? So Elohein of the Maluk. These are Maluk slaves. So if the arrangement between the husband and the wife is that if the slaves die during the course of the marriage, Meshulah, then their death is her loss. Hosiru, and if they increase in value during the marriage, Hosiru la, then their increase is her gain. So in other words, if the marriage ends in the husband's death or in divorce, she has no compensation for the loss of her slaves whatsoever. But if they're still alive, then she takes them as they are, even if they're worth more than when she married them. When she married him, since both the profit and loss are hers, then she's considered to be the owner during the course of the marriage. Even though the um, the husband is responsible for providing them with food, they may not eat truma because they are owned by the wife. And she's disqualified. She cannot eat truma either. So by definition, they cannot either. And these are the Tzon Barzel slaves. He may assume that if the Avadim die during the course of the marriage, Mesula low, then their death is his loss, the husband's loss. And if they increase the value, Hosiru low, then the increase is his to gain. Any change in the status of the slaves during the course of the marriage is the husband's loss or gain, since he guaranteed that if he died or divorced her, she would receive the amount the slaves were worth at the time of their marriage, regardless of what they are worth when the marriage ends. So, since he's responsible for guaranteeing them, he absorbs their loss. Their loss. They may eat truma since this responsibility defines him as their owner. Therefore, since he owns them, then no matter what her status is, they can eat truma. She can't. Okay. Mishnah Beis. Bas Yisrael Shenisas the Kohen. If the daughter of Yisrael, being a non-Kohen, marries a Kohen, and thereby became and thereby now allowed to eat truma. She brought slaves into a marriage with him. Ben Avde Melug, Ben Avde Tzon Barzel. Whether they are Melug slaves or Tzon Barzel slaves, meaning that whether she owns them or he owns them. They can all eat truma. All the slaves can eat truma. Why? Because the slaves can eat the truma because they belong to the wife. the rule is that if a person acquired by a Kohen owns other people, then those people may also eat truma. So since some Barzel slaves may eat truma because they're owned by the husband, as we just learned in the previous Mishnah. So let's look at the reverse case. A Bas Kohen Shenisas the Yisrael. The daughter of a Kohen marries a Yisrael, and thereby became disqualified from eating truma. And she brought slaves into a marriage with him. Ben Avde Malog, Ben Avde Son Barzel. Now, whether they are Malog slaves or Son Barzel slaves, they may not eat truma. Both sets of slaves are disqualified for eating truma. The ones that belong to the wife, the ones that belong to the husband, because she's disqualified from eating truma, and then he's a Yisrael, so he's there, he can't eat truma. So too bad for her. Mishnah Gimel. Another case. Bas Yisrael Shneis is the Kohen. If the daughter of Yisrael marries a Kohen, and then the Kohen died and left sons, so she's not falling to Yibum because she has sons. And he also left her pregnant. Lo yachlu avateh b'truma. Her son Barzel slaves may not eat truma b'fnei chelko shel ubar, because the fetus is sharing them if he is a male. If the fetus is a female, she has no share in the slaves. If he's a male, then he inherits along with his brothers. Since the son Barzel slaves belong to the husband, they are now the property of the heirs, one of whom is a fetus. Uber poso. We know that the fetus is not fully considered his father's child, because the fetus disqualifies his mother from eating truma if she is a Kohen's daughter who married a non-Kohen. But he does not entitle his mother to eat truma if she is a non-Kohen who married a Kohen. This shows that he has not yet fully considered the Kohen's child. Since he does not yet have the status of a Kohen, the slaves he owns may not eat truma. Different Yossi. This is according to Yossi. So the Chachamim Amrulo, the Chachamim said to Yossi, they questioned his ruling. Since you have testified to us, you ruled with regard to the daughter of Yisrael who was married to a Kohen who then died, that you already ruled that her son Barzel slaves may not eat truma because of her fetus's share in the slaves. Bas Kohen le Kohen. Then you should rule even that even if a Kohen's daughter was married to a Kohen, Umeis, and he died and left sons, and also left her pregnant. Lo yochla avadeh b'truma. Her son Barzel slaves may not eat truma. Because the fetus is shared in the slaves. We're saying over here that the reason why Rabbi Yossi forbids the fetus of slaves from eating truma is not because the fetus is not a Kohen, but because even if he is a Kohen, he does not grant others the ability to eat truma. If so, if that's true, then the Chachamim said to Rabbi Yossi, it should make no difference whether the fetus's mother is a Kohen or a non-Kohen. In either case, the fetus is unborn, and the slave should not be allowed to eat truma on his account. The Rambam actually brings down, says that Rabbi Yossi actually holds that whether the slaves may eat truma depends on whether the fetus is a Kohen, and that depends on whether the fetus's mother is a Kohen or not. If she's not a Kohen, then the fetus is not a Kohen until he is born. So his slaves may not eat truma, but if she is a Kohen, then the fetus is a Kohen even before he is born, so his slaves would be allowed to eat truma. This is why Rabbi Yossi said that is ruling specifically in a case where the mother is a non-Kohen. That's according to the Rambam. Mishnah Dalit. Ha'uber, a fetus, a yavam, and a yavam to who she fell for yibum, ve'erisin, and a woman who was betrothed, who was engaged, ve'cherish, and a deaf mute, who cannot hear or speak, who married her, uben teisha shanim yamecha, and the boy is 9 years old, and one day who has reached his ninth birthday, who had bia with her. Postlin, hello Machlin. They all all these men, they disqualify her from eating chuma, hello Machlin, but they do not entitle her to eat it. Suffix should have been even if there's a doubt whether the boy is 9 years old and one day or not, maybe he's less than that. So it's uncertain whether his bia is legally recognized. He still disqualifies her from eating truma. Safik heavy stays saro, safik low heavy. Similarly, when there's a doubt whether a boy over the age of 13 who 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 betrothed a woman had already grown 2 hairs to make him an adult, or had not grown them. So it's uncertain whether the heiressing was valid. He disqualifies her. Disqualified. Since you're not sure, it's disqualified. If a house fell on a man and his brother's daughter to whom he was married, killing them both. They do a but we don't know which of them died first. So if the woman died before the husband, then 1 second. So her co-wife requires chalitza, but may not be taken any. Let's see over here. If the dead wife, who was the niece, died before her husband, then he was not married to her at the time that he died, but only to her co-wife. So she requires ibum or chalitza. But if the husband died first, then he was still married to the niece when he died. So the surviving co-wife is actually forbidden to the surviving brother. So therefore, she doesn't need ibum or chalitza. We must therefore act the chumrah in both directions. He is not allowed to do ibum with her, but she still needs chalitza to be free to marry. Oh, this one says the suffix d'oraisa here. Mishnah Hey. Mishnah is a long one. Okay. Ha'ones amefatev v'ashotet, a violator, someone who lives with an unmarried woman against her will. A seducer, someone who convinces an unmarried woman to live with him. An insane person. The apostle, they do not disqualify the women with whom they had bia with from eating truma if he's a non-Kohen and she's a bas Kohen. And they do not entitle her to eat truma if he's a Kohen and she's the Israelith. The bia by itself does not affect her ability to eat truma. Only marriage between a non-Kohen and the daughter of a Kohen disqualifies her from eating truma. And only marriage between a Kohen and the Israelis allows her to eat truma. However, this is only if she had bia with a man fit to marry a Jewess of proper lineage. In Einer Ru'yin love of Yisrael. But if these men are unfit to enter into the Kal, meaning that they are this is a d'oraisa to marry a Jewess of proper lineage, her Ela Postlin, and they disqualify her from eating truma just by having bia with her. For example, if the man is a nasin or a mamzer and he lives with a bas Kohen, then she is puzzled from eating truma now. Ketzad. So how is this so? How does this work? Yisrael Shabal Bas Kohen, if the violator, seducer, or insane person was a Yisrael, was a non-Kohen who lived with a Kohen's daughter, Talcha with Truma. She can still eat Truma because she had Bia with a non-Kohen outside of marriage does not disqualify her. Ibra, if she becomes pregnant by him, I mean this man who is not married to her, now she's carrying his child outside of marriage. Lo socha b'truma. She may not eat truma because the fetus from a non-kohen disqualifies the mother from eating truma. If the fetus was cut up and died in her womb, Talcha, she may once again eat truma since she is no longer pregnant with the non-kohen's child. Okay, let's look at another case. Before we spoke about it, Kohen. Now we're going to talk about the flip side. Kohen Shabbat Bas Yisrael. If the violator, seducer, or insane person was a Kohen who lived with a Bas Yisrael, Lo Socha Truma. She may not eat Truma since being with a Kohen outside marriage is not entitled her to eat. Ibra, if she becomes pregnant by him outside of marriage, Lo Socha, she may still not eat Truma because a fetus from a Kohen does not entitle its non-Kohen mother to eat. Yalda, however, if she gave birth to a Kohen's child outside of marriage, Tochel, she may eat Truma since she has a child from a Kohen. From here we see that the grandson to entitle the non-Kohen woman to eat Truma is greater than the father's. The father did not enable her to eat Truma because he was not married to her, while the son that he had with her did enable her to eat. That's his mother. And no, he's a Kohen. An Eved Kanani disqualifies a Kohen's daughter from eating Truma on account of having bia with her, since he is forbidden to marry her. But a slave does not disqualify her from eating Truma on account of being her offspring, because he is not considered her offspring at all. It does not legally count as her living descendant, and therefore does not prevent her from eating Truma. Okay. Now we're going to look at a different case. Ketzad. How does this work? Bas Yisrael a Kohen. If a daughter of Yisrael is married to a Kohen, Bas Kohen Yisrael, or the daughter of a Kohen is married to Yisrael, the other him in the ben, she had a son from him. The son went and pressed against a and had bia with a shikha kananis. The other him in the ben, and she had a son from him. Hareza Eved. And this son is an Eved Kanani, even though he has a Jewish father. Since the son is an Eved Kanani, he's not legally regarded as a child of his father or the grandchild of his father's mother. Therefore, if his father's mother is the Yisrael's daughter who is married to a Kohen and is now a widow or divorced, and the slave child, her grandson, is her only surviving offspring, she may not eat Truma because she is not considered to have offspring from the Kohen, because she's a slave. Bas Kohen Yisrael, and if his father's mother is a Kohen's daughter who is married to Yisrael, and the slave child is their only surviving offspring, Tacha Truma, she may eat Truma because she is not considered to have offspring from the non-Kohen. Mamzer Posel, a grandson who is a Mamzer disqualifies a Kohen's daughter from eating Truma, Umachil, but entitles a Yisrael's daughter to eat Truma. The case said, how so? How does this work? Bas Yisrael a Kohen. If Yisrael's daughter was married to a Kohen, the Bas Kohen Yisrael, or a Kohen's daughter was married to Yisrael, the other him and a Bas, and she had a daughter from him, Hacha Bas Nisis the Eved or the Goy, and the daughter went and got married to a to a Evet Kanani or to a non-Jew. The other, him and a ben, and she had a son from him. Hare is a mamzer. This son is a mamzer. Although he's not a proper lineage, he is regarded as his mother's and grandmother's legal offspring. Therefore, Hayasik and Imo Bas Kohen. If his mother's mother is Yisrael's daughter, who is married to a Kohen, is now a widow or divorced, and their only surviving offspring is the daughter's son, who is a mamzer, Telcha Chuma, she may eat Chuma because she has offspring from a Kohen. Bas Kohen Yisrael, if his mother's mother is a Kohen's daughter who was married to Yisrael, and the mamzer grandchild is their only surviving offspring, well, Socha B'Chuma, she may not eat Chuma because she is considered to have offspring from a non-Kohen. Not too complicated. And the last Mishnah for today, Mishnah Vav, Kohen Gadol, Pamim, Shuluposa, even a Kohen Gadol sometimes disqualifies his grandmother from eating Chuma. Okay, so how's this? How so? Bas Kohen Yisrael, we have the Himel Bas. If a Kohen's daughter was married to Yisrael and had a daughter from him, Alcha Habas, and he says the Kohen. And the daughter went and married a Kohen, we have the Himel Ben, and had a son from him, Harezeh Roy, Leos Kohen Gadol, Omed, Mishamish, Al Gabe, Mizbech. Then this son is fit to become a Kohen Gadol who stands and serves on top of the Mizbeach. And the halacha is as follows: Ma'acheles imo, he enables his mother, a Bas Yisrael, to eat truma, even after his father dies or divorces her, since he is her child from a Kohen. The post as Amy, but he disqualifies his mother's mother, about a Bas Kohen, from eating truma because she now has a grandchild from her Yisrael husband. Zosamaris, this woman, the grandmother, then says, "Lo kivnei Kohen Gadol. Let there not be many like my son, my grandson, the Kohen Gadol. Shehu poslenim in chuma, who disqualifies me from chuma, meaning that I appreciate a lowly grandson, having a mamzer, who enables me to eat chuma more than a prominent grandson, Kohen Gadol, who disqualifies me from eating chuma." Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll see you back here on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. Have a wonderful Shabbos.